Before Happy gets started, I wanted to say a few things about this item. First off, really just wanted to thank the staff for all the work that they've done with this. Happy, Brad, as well as Catherine. I know she isn't staff, but she was involved in the process. I also appreciate the time and effort that the banks provided in providing their proposals. I know it's not easy doing these, providing proposals, so I appreciate the time that they took to provide those to staff. One thing that I do want to make sure that we get on the record is that we didn't have any existing issues with the existing bank. From the staff perspective, F&M Bank has done an incredible job in working with the city, and so staff didn't have any issues with F&M Bank. Now, with that being said, it's completely up to the council's direction and desire to provide direction and to have staff look at items as they see fit. So I did want to make sure that although we didn't have any issues, it's absolute council's prerogative to provide direction to staff to go out to RFP should the council desire that. One thing that wasn't mentioned in the staff report or wasn't brought up in the previous discussion is that in the process of identifying the goals of the department, this item essentially just rises to the very top of the priority goals of the city council as it relates to the finance department. With that being said, we're delayed on the last 2 years' audits, a multitude of other things that are going on that are delayed in the finance department, a change up, and not saying that the council shouldn't change, but this really elevates this item to the very forefront of the items in the finance department. So from a management perspective, in managing the time, the resources that we have in the finance department, transitioning, developing RFPs, does take away time from the other work that the staff needs to do. And I wanted to make sure that I put that on there. In addition to that, any transition away from the existing bank does require time, anywhere from on the very expedited time frame of just 4 weeks all the way out to maybe 12 weeks or so to transition all of those things. Changing vendor information, transferring that, a whole host of information, employee information, all of that stuff takes time. And so transitioning away from another to a new bank would essentially mean that all the other items that we are working on, the audits, the other things that are backlogged, that does get put on the back burner. I wanted to start off that conversation by just being transparent and providing that information to the council as well as the public, because these things do end up being the priority item, and it's the complete prerogative of the council to do so. But I wanted to make sure that everybody knew that. So with that said, Happy, you want to go ahead and cue up the presentation?
Before I say anything else, can I ask, so let's just say we decided to move to West America. How much money are we moving from F&M over to West America right now? What would that look like? No. So let's just say we decide to bank with West America, and so we're going to be moving money away from F&M, right? Do we know around what that would look like?
No, because basically if we did it today, as Gurpal mentioned in the report, it'd probably be almost about $1 million.
It'd be about $1 million.
But that doesn't mean that we're going to keep that $900 million in the bank.
Okay.
So as I mentioned, depends on the warrants and depends on payroll. Sometimes we have warrants that are high depending on what projects going on in the city. If there's a big public works construction project, I need more money in there.
Yeah.
There's times where I pulled $1 million out of LAIF, and there's times where I put in $3 million into LAIF.
Okay.
So
right now we have about $1 million at F&M.
Yes.
Today.
Yes.
Okay. I'm gonna be honest. My notes are very scattered just because there was a lot that was said. I wanted to wait, but so just bear with me. I want to be very transparent right off the bat. Charlie, manager at West America, is my older cousin. I'm not here on behalf of him. I'm not here on behalf of West America. My family asked me if I could come talk, and I thought this was super interesting in general. I want to get a little bit more involved in this kind of stuff. I have a paper to write. Maybe shouldn't have stayed this late, but we're here now, so I'll be all right. I like the idea in general of keeping our money local. I really like that. I think when both banks spoke, I think we went a little bit really off tangent too with some of the things that we were getting into. It almost turned into like a, hey, who's nicer to Livingston contest, which is great, right? Relationships matter. There's a lot more that goes into what we're doing. But at the end of the day, I feel like it's your job as a council to decide what is best for the city of Livingston, what is the best use of our money. It's not who's invested more or where it's being invested or who's working where. All that stuff looks great. Again, relationships are great, but what makes the most sense for the city of Livingston? In terms of numbers, I know some of those calculations would be a little bit different based off of what West America people were saying, but again, across the board, it would be different if we apply that rate everywhere else. I know the city manager had mentioned earlier that the 1.5% rate fluctuates for Bank of the West. Depending on how much fluctuation is there, it looks like we're really looking at what return we're getting. Like, are we not considering that at all? Like, is there that much fluctuation to the point where it's very unstable? Just because if it's a numbers game only, it looks like they're the best across the board. Now, again, I know there's more that goes into it. Doesn't make sense to transition based on deadlines and timelines, right? You guys as a staff know that much better than I do. But if we're playing the numbers game, I feel like, again, numbers-wise, it looks like they're going to be better across the board. Again, but going back to what I was saying, though, I think our community does a great job of being very much about the community. I think most of you, if not all of you, were born here or have lived here for most of your life. That goes for myself, my family, and a lot of other people I know here, too. So for that reason, I really like the idea of keeping our money here if it makes the most sense, if it's the best thing fiscally, right, and for the city. There's another thing that I wanted to kind of bring up that I don't really think anybody's mentioned at all. They kind of touched on it, and I want to go into a little bit more, the whole idea of their liquidity ratio. The bank is very safe. It's not in any danger. I'm not saying that F&M is not safe. Obviously, they're a very high-performing bank, but we have seen bank runs happen over the past couple of years, obviously very famously with SVB earlier this year. Doesn't mean that it's just going to spontaneously happen to either of our banks. But I think one thing we do have to consider, especially when it comes to banking, is the national economy. And the reason for that is, obviously, we're not in DC right now, right? This is very small compared to that bigger picture. But those things can affect us in very big ways. We saw that with COVID. We see that with inflation. We see that with interest rates. There's a lot of things going on in the economy right now that I think are very concerning. It's almost like a little perfect storm. Student loan repayments are about to restart. We have a lot of workers going on strike. Some of our biggest industries are affected. Almost had a government shutdown, just got averted. But we have a deadline of about another 60 days with a bunch of incompetent people handling it. And we have the Fed saying that they might raise interest rates again. And these are things to consider when, I feel like these are things that we should be considering when we're going into this. How big is that picture going to affect banks like F&M, banks like West America, right? Is there any potential of bank runs? Is there any potential of losses, right, with these industries? Because at the end of the day, they have a job to prioritize their shareholders and their profit over anything else. And in that situation, I really like the idea of a safe bank in town that's going to be here no matter what for the residents. Like Mr. Summer had mentioned earlier, we have a lot of people who walk to the bank to go get their Social Security payments, don't have vehicles, etc. In a situation of an emergency, really like the idea of empowering our local bank. Like Mr. from F&M mentioned, they're worth multiple billions of dollars. I think they're going to be just fine unless something drastic happens. And in the case of anything drastic that may happen at any point over time, I really like the idea of our money being here. Very convenient, literally right there. And I think that would be a great move if it's best for the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any additional citizen comments in the chamber? Okay, I'm going for anybody on the phone. Any additional comments in regards to this item? Okay, hearing none. So at this time, I'm bringing it back to the dais. Council.
Mr. Mayor, for the comment, please, now that both of the banks have stated their comments. If we were to strictly look at the numbers, one of them sticks out a little better than the other, but many jurisdictions, not only Livingston, other municipalities, they have always, a lot of them have considered awarding contracts, services, and different things, and given extra points for someone that's a local bank, a local business. So a contractor from Fresno can bid maybe a little lower than a contractor from Livingston, but because it's a contractor business located in town, they get extra points that to help off some of the costs. So they do that to promote local businesses, local services, because everywhere we look, we see signs, shop local, don't shop Amazon, shop local, create jobs, do this. And shouldn't we also be doing that? Hilmar, I get it. I know that you mentioned 3 people working for F&M from Livingston. I know AJ, of course, but I'm willing to, I don't know, I can't speak and I'm not going to bring them up anymore, but I'm kind of willing to bet that there's also people that work other branches, probably from Livingston too, for other branches too, other banks. So it's not, I get it. People make calls all the time to do what's best for them. And I do that, but I also want the council to consider how others have given extra credits to local businesses, and we should also do the same. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Council, any other questions at this time?
To Gopal's point, when this first took place, when the banking services, back then, based on what I knew, I did have a vote to keep West America, okay? Based on the fact that keep it local. We want our bank local. I have family that banks with West America, but I don't belong to West America or F&M. I wouldn't be on the dais if I belonged to either one of you. So, not on the dais, but I would have recused myself. So with that even being said, us as a council, we are not utilizing either of your services personally. Keeping our dollars local, we've seen what has been said to the gentleman that came up. It's important that you are invested in our community. People choose where they want to work, people choose where they want to bank for certain reasons. Tonight's presentation, the staff of Livingston did provide us with information. It was clarified even more so between the banks that are present tonight. So it does make sense to keep money local, but I do see your point. Our tax, you're paying the taxes here, but there are other services that F&M is providing, and the numbers reflect positively. I'm both your parts, but more so for our current services. So with that being said, I want to go ahead and approve the recommendation and resolutions as provided for F&M Bank.
Thank you for your comments and your motion. Before I move forward, I'd like to just add some additional comments. So you did make a motion, right?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. So, well, first of all, I want to take a moment to thank everyone that has been participating, from staff, from different people from the 3 different agencies, 3 different banks, people out in the community, people calling in, just everyone involved. And I know that there was it was a long process, because we want to make sure that we're not doing something just too fast and just not doing things right. Ideally, it's when a lot of times when things are done too fast, and there's always something that we're missing. And we have found ourselves in those situations, for the last 6-7 months, trying to make corrections of a lot of those little things. So to staff, I want to say thank you. I apologize if I sent too many emails at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. Sometimes I cannot sleep, and just might as well send it now. And I'm hoping that you'll see it in the morning. But sometimes, very rarely do I get a response right there and then. But just disregard the time that I send those out. And to people out in the community, that have reached out, have shared their peace of mind and their ideas. So and this is part of the process, and so I really appreciate it. So, yes. Sure, go ahead.
To both parties, I want to say thank you. Mr. Anderson, nothing personal, just opinions. So, and I want to say thank you to Happy staff that participated in this. I appreciate everything you do.
Thank you. And so, just a couple of things that I want to reiterate, and some of those are some of the things that were said by others. And I don't believe, at least when I think it was May 2nd, when it was asked to staff by the majority of this council, not by unanimous decision, but just as a request to bring this item to the council. It was, I think it was 3, and at that time, and so it's not that at least to my knowledge, we had no issues at that time with our current services. It was just a wish by the majority of the council that was initiated to bring this item to council. So it's not that we had any issues. Also, just a reminder that currently we have services guaranteed until November 11, and that there is a transition period of time, whether it is 4 weeks. I heard anything from 4 weeks, 6, 8, up to 12 weeks. And that also involves staff time, taking staff away from the other priorities that this council has given them to work on, and focus on other issues on something that to try and fix something that wasn't broken. I'm just trying to look at my notes. And just to go back to one of the previous citizen comments, and to analyze and to make decisions based on what we think what is best for the city of Livingston, not what is best for anyone in particular, or at least what we think would be best for the majority of, in this case, for the city of Livingston, and how we can best use those funds accordingly, and obviously save money and all that. So, and then just a reminder that if once there's a motion on the floor, and if there's a second, and if there is a 2-2, then this doesn't go anywhere. Then we have to figure out again, and then just the clock is ticking. Okay? So also this item says resolution approving a contract with F&M Bank for banking services or alternative council direction, which could mean, I do believe that this our current services are to expire on November 11th, but the previous 5 year, I think it was 4 or 5 year contract, was to expire November 2024.
Yeah, I don't know the exact month, but it is 2024,
So-
the end of 2024.
So, which would give this council, more time, if needed, if desired, to figure something out where it's not going to affect the city at all. I'm sure everybody wants to get paid, especially the employees, and we want to make sure that they get paid. I see somebody back there scratching their heads like, am I getting paid? Just kidding. But anyways, so any additional comments before we move with the motion? So there's a motion on the floor.
So there is a motion on the floor.
Yes.
And I just want to reiterate that. The driving force behind the May 2nd decision was because Gurpal was not happy that F&M Bank, that was the question. I think that could have been resolved by simply reaching out to F&M and asking them, hey, where's our bank? Let's work together here and figure out, this building is already occupied. That would have been ideal. And just hearing you out first before we made the decision of saying, okay, cease all this and that, go out for RFP. But that's what we did. We are here now, and it would be very disappointing that we don't come to a decision as simple as it has been presented to us tonight with the information that we have before us. If we can't make a decision on banking services tonight, and we come to this 2-2, we need to do better. We need to do better for the city, for our residents, our staff. A decision has to be reached. So, like I said, May 2nd, we could have, but made it simpler by reaching out and asking where is our bank, because that was the driving force leading us to this point, saying F&M promised, and that was the I want to say I do believe that was the reason why this RFP was sent out, was because we wanted to change. Well, we didn't want to change, but we wanted to know where is our bank. They made a promise to Gopal, and we heard from the last council meeting that wasn't quite accurate. So again, I want to go ahead and continue with the motion.
All right, so we have a motion on the floor. Is there a second? I'll go ahead and second that. Roll call, please. So first by Ms. Soto, second by myself.
Roll call. Councilmember Roth?
Yes.
Councilmember Soto?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Samra?
No.
Mayor Moran?
Yes.
Motion approved by a vote of 3-1.